You're watching Glove Fist with boxing experts Frank Lotierzo and Jack Hirsch. The best boxing show on the internet on the national streaming sports Roku channel.
If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Lotierzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Lotierzo and Jack Hirsch.
Mac, I really like that opening. What the cream? What was that? White Room last week? It was a Rolling Stone Satisfaction. Mac, you don't have that much. Your taste isn't that good when you pick fighters, but your taste in music from the '60s is very good. Hi, my name is Frank Lotierzo. Welcome to Glove Fist. I'm joined by co-host, former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association, Mr. Jack Hirsch. Jack, you look good. You look rested. You look relaxed. You look kind of sneaky, like you want to attack me and pick a fight. All I can say is this. I hope you brought your A game because we're going to be spending a lot of time on my favorite fighter in the sport currently today, Terrence Bud Crawford, who fights this weekend for the first time since he won the signature fight of his career against Earl Spence Jr. 1 year ago today. But before we get to that, Jack, let's just clean up some business from the weekend. But before we do that, how are you?
I'm good, Frank, and raring to go. I'm ready. I'm going to come out hard in this show the way Hagler did against Tommy Hearns.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Jack, let's start off with this. The fight turned out to be a pretty good fight. I saw highlights of it. We didn't have much hope for
fight
it.
Are you talking about, Frank Lotierzo?
What?
What fight are you talking about?
I'm going to get to it.
Okay.
Take it easy.
I think you're talking about the Hagler-Hearns fight that all you did was see highlights, Frank.
Oh, no. I'm talking about Chisora.
A 3-round fight. All you've done is seeing highlights of one of the great fights of all time.
Jack, I won some money on that fight, and I didn't make my pick until that morning. Anyhow, we're talking about the heavyweight clash between Derek Chisora and Joe Joyce. Two guys that are at the end of the road. I think it was a minor upset. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but we both said off the air last week that we liked Chisora to pull the upset. He did. I didn't see the fight, Jack. Like I said, I saw some highlights of it. I saw the knockdown. I don't know if you saw it, but it sounds like it was a pretty good fight. And as most old guys that are slow, like Joe Joyce, they just have no defense.
Well, we didn't talk about it on last week's show, Frank. Your time management, hosting, you were like a coach who didn't leave enough time on the clock for an extra play like Dak Prescott that time in the playoffs.
You could say that, Jack, or you could say I have a feel.
That time for that pick, but I think 2 weeks ago we did say on the air we like Chisora. I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe we very quickly.
Well, Jack, here's my refute to what you said. I am a good time management guy, but I have a feel for the game. And last week we had a flow going on, and I didn't want to ruin it with a fight nobody really cares about.
Well, in England, it wasn't attractive.
It was big in England. You're right.
Off the air, we picked Chisora by close decision because he wouldn't impress with Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is slow as molasses. He's lost something. He was never the quickest fighter, but he'd always throw a lot of punches, apply pressure. He was always easy to hit, but his speed was at least average. But since the Zhang loss, and seeing his one fight, a tune-up since then, he was, slow.
The
Really?
Zhang fights really did take a lot out of him.
Yeah, I mean, and he's an older guy. He's around 38 years old. I don't hear
Yes.
Chisora's 40. Chisora's been in a lot of tough fights, but he wins on heart. This was a fight that could have gone either way until Chisora took control, the last couple of rounds, and legitimately deserved the decision. Chisora looked exhausted at times. He was like floundering against the ropes. His body movement was crazy. He was fighting exhausted, yet he'd throw these big right hands out of nowhere. He would nail Joyce with them. Joyce just had a hard time getting off, but Joyce would be putting relentless pressure on, at least trying. And it was kind of like a barroom brawl fight after a while, very
Which everyone
entertaining.
expected.
But if you look at it from an entertainment viewpoint, it was a really good fight. But where can either guy go? Chisora, I don't want to think what the physical toll is going to be on him later on. He's been in too many fights where he's taken too much punishment. And so what's left for Chisora? I mean, Chisora, about the best thing I could say for Chisora, keep in tip-top shape. And if 1 week before Tyson Fury's scheduled to fight Alexander Usyk and Fury pulls out, slip Chisora in. Obviously, he's not going to get anywhere remotely close to the money Fury would, but he'd be in line, to get a few million or whatever.
Jack, I've read and seen where a lot of people are down on him. They want him to stop fighting. They worry about his health. And you know what? I worry about fighters' health, and I can see their point. But I'm at the point now, look, whatever damage is done to Chisora is already done. And we're going to see that down the road in years to come if we're around to see it. So I say this. Look, he won a big fight. The damage is basically done. Let him make as much money as he can. Maybe even take a couple easy fights. But I have no problem with him getting in line and getting a shot at another guy. No, another name guy. He's not a threat to win anything meaningful. But you know what? He's not going to stop. He's not going to listen to anybody. If he's going to have brain damage, it's already there. So let the guy make as much money as he can and hopefully leave his family better off than he was when he started.
I have a perfect fight of His Excellency, who's now getting involved with Jared Anderson. Match Jared Anderson with Derek Chisora, because that would be the name to propel Jared Anderson into something bigger. He's got to get a real good name on his record. He's got Charles Martin on his record, but get Chisora on your record. And if the old guy Chisora hits Anderson on the chin and stops him, which isn't beyond the realm of possibility, then all of a sudden Chisora is really in line for a big fight.
Okay, Jack, but let me ask you this. If that happened and Jared Anderson mutilated Chisora in a couple rounds, you would be on here saying the following Monday, I'm sick of Jared Anderson. He doesn't fight anybody. It means nothing. We all knew that fight was going to go that way. When is he going to fight somebody good? And Chisora
is better than anyone else he's fought, basically. I'll throw another fight at you. In England, Chisora's wildly popular, Frank. If he fought Anthony Joshua, that would probably pack a stadium. Let's say,
and it would be a good fight.
Joshua Daniel Dubois. Let's say the sanctioning body, the IBF gave him a waiver and said, okay, to the Dubois. The Dubois is promoted by Frank Warren, and Chisora, who fought Joe Joyce. I know he used to be promoted by Eddie Hearn. It was a Frank Warren promotion, so I think he would be fighting for Frank Warren. Make it a fight, because in England they'll turn out. It's entertainment. And can we honestly say, Frank, that Chisora doesn't belong in the ring based on his skill level? He beat Joe Joyce. Let's give him credit. You could argue that
it's hard to take it away from him.
Top 12, let's say, contender or something.
But Jack, as far as him fighting at Jared Anderson is fighting Bicoli this weekend on the Crawford undercard. That's a good fight. That would be a better win than beating Chisora at this stage. So I don't know if he can get a fight with Jared Anderson, but if he could, great for him. I'm not going to put
Frank. Deontay Wilder against Chisora. If Wilder wants to continue, someone has to win, so someone will advance to something, a meaningful fight after that. You know,
that wouldn't be a bad fight on an undercard of a big fight.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to see Chisora fight. With that said, I disagree with you slightly, Frank. You said any damage that's done has been done. Would only get worse with any fights. Remember Jerry Quarry took a lot of punches, came back to the ring at the age of 45, and I saw that fight in YouTube, a meaningless 6-rounder. He took so many head-snapping punches. It's hard to believe that didn't have an effect.
No, Jack, I think that did. I think their situations are different, though, because Chisora has never had the layoff, and he's shown that he's still somewhat competitive with the elite guys. And even to this day, Alexander Usyk said Chisora gave him his best fight about 4 years ago. So I think the situation's a little bit different. And Jack, let's face it, all the punches that guy has taken, I really don't think – I think whatever's going to damage is done has already been done. And people forget that when Vitaly Klitschko was killing everybody, Chisora took him 12 rounds. And even though he didn't win, that was a big statement for him.
And it was competitive. Vitaly Klitschko was exhausted at the end of the fight.
Yeah, Chisora, the last two. Yeah, I agree.
Frank, there was another fight this weekend. I actually covered it for my publication, Boxing News. Covered it off TV, off the zone. Clarissa Shields.
I know you want to talk about her. Go ahead.
No, I'm not a Clarissa Shields fan because I don't like her personality. I think she's brash.
She's very hard to like.
Borderline obnoxious, but she's had a tough upbringing, with that said. But she's arguably the best woman fighter of all time. Arguably. I mean, I forget all her silly belts. She won the WBC heavyweight belt off this Canadian fighter, Vanessa Jonasi, who had an 8-2 record going in. And because both fighters weighed on 175 pounds for this heavyweight title match, the WBO's vacant female title was on the line as well. Okay, so she won that too. But she entered the ring in Detroit. She had so many people holding her 15 or 17 belts she's won. The rappers were blaring. That's what boxing is now. It's entertaining. It's a young person's thing, Frank. You and I are dinosaurs. That's why when our friend Russell Peltz starts lamenting about the way things were in the past, leave it alone. It's a young person's sport as far as the competitors, inside and outside the ring. That's who they cater to.
Jack, you're right about that. But it's funny? Now, everybody sees this shirt I have on. Okay? I was out Friday night, and I saw a guy wearing a Muhammad Ali shirt. So I went up to him, and I said, excuse me. I said, sir, where did you get the shirt? And the guy was like about 28 years old. He said, just go on Amazon and punch in Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali. I said, really? I says, are you a boxing fan? He says, yeah, somewhat. He goes, I'm more of an Ali fan. I said, Ali hasn't been champ for 45 years. What is it? He goes, oh, Ali's the greatest. He's this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, really? And then a friend of mine who owns a medical supply company, he's in New York a lot. And I said, what is it with these Ali shirts? He says, Frank, he says, in New York, boxing is big. He goes, I see guys wearing Ali stuff all over in the city. And it's like, I wasn't aware of that. It's like it surprises me because we are dinosaurs that they know who he is and they can talk about him a little bit. So I want to think that it's making a comeback to a degree, but I've been around too long to be misled by that. But I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, Ali last fought like 42 years ago or so. And
But he hasn't been a
wonder-
champ since
but I
'79.
wonder- No. But I wonder future generations, when are they going to look past Ali? Or is he going to become as iconic as Babe Ruth is in baseball to baseball fans? I'll give you an example. Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey's name means nothing to young people now. I hate to say it. You don't hear them talk about Jack Dempsey. Jack Johnson, yes, because Jack Johnson was cool. He had this story that lived on, first black heavyweight champion, the Great White Hope thing, the plays, the documentary. But Jack Dempsey doesn't mean anything now, and he was champ 100 years ago. But Jack Dempsey was still, but Frank, he was still popular in the 1980s. Jack Dempsey, very popular in the 1980s. But I guess as time goes by,
I don't think Jack Johnson means anything to the kids of today, Jack, either, or the young guys. I really don't.
Joe Louis. How much does Joe Louis mean to young black men today? Joe Louis.
Not as much as Muhammad Ali, but I think the fact that his reign was so long and beating Schmeling to kind of pull the plug on Hitler in a way, I think that endures. I do. But okay. I think the thing that will save Ali, Jack, and it's not in play for Jack Johnson or Jack Dempsey, is Ali came along during the television era, and there's so much footage of him fighting and talking and doing the talk show circuits where they didn't talk about boxing. I mean, where he goes toe-to-toe with a guy like William Buckley in 1968. So I think with Ali, it'll be a little bit different. And the fact that he has the iconic wins, but eventually, in 100 years from now, he'll be reduced and he'll just say he was too small. I remember people saying that Joe Louis was too small for him. And that's mainly why Ali would have the edge.
Right, and Alexander Usyk was too small for Tyson Fury.
Well, Jack, I love that argument because that offsets it.
But let me with Claressa Shields. So she looked good, winning in the second round stoppage. And I could never understand why she doesn't have more stoppages. It was her first stoppage victory in 7 years. But she's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. She deserves to be in a big female fight, but female boxing, is at a low level. Let's be honest about it. There are not many competitors out there, and it's not the fault of the really good fighters. Shields had one really good opponent in Savannah Marshall. It was a really tough, close 10-round fight that she won. But, in a way, it's a shame that Layla Ali isn't around. Even though Shields is a better fighter, in my view, the name would have created like a super fight. Like if you hang around long enough, something falls in your lap. For example, Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 1. It just happened. Wow. An unbelievable matchup, even though that's...
I actually think that was WrestleMania 3, Jack.
Oh, no, not WrestleMania 1. I'm sorry. I got married the day before WrestleMania 1. That's all I was asked about at my wedding.
So that was 1985, right?
Right. The guy who came out the videotape, all he's doing is asking for predictions.
And Audrey hasn't left you yet?
For a number of years after, we always made it a point to go out for Mexican food and the WrestleMania in the closed circuit in the theaters. We outgrew that eventually.
Jack, we didn't talk about this before the show, but by the way, Manny Pacquiao did an exhibition this week against a kickboxer. I know nothing about the guy who he did the exhibition with. It was declared a draw because the only way you could win is by stoppage. And Jack, Manny Pacquiao looked terrible. They better not let him near a ring or license him to fight Barrios in a sanctioned bout like has been talked about. Did you see any of it?
I'm kicking myself now, Frank, because I came upon it and I said, did this just take place? Nah, this is from a while, maybe a few years ago.
No, it did.
It's sparring for fun, even though they showed this arena, a lot of people in it. I didn't understand, because I didn't know it was taking place. I kind of wish I watched more of it.
He looked terrible, Jack. He looked terrible. Had no
45.
defense. Right. He looked like a guy that was 45, and it would be criminal to allow him to fight anybody ranked in the top 10 in boxing. It would just be a massacre. The Ugas fight showed us everything. Pacquiao had a great career. I don't know why he can't let it go. I hope it's that he doesn't need money.
Let me ask you this, Frank. I get the feeling Mayweather could use some extra money because the way he spends money, Mayweather's ridiculous. He was on vacation somewhere and he had his security team. He had about 8 guys surrounding him, like all over,
Right.
like he was a head of state. Someone's got to pay these guys. Floyd's got to be paying them all, not just the salary, putting them up in
His
the
top guy
hotel.
makes $1 million a year.
His top security guy gets $1 million a year?
Yeah, the big guy that's like 6'8" that looks like a pro wrestler.
Wow.
And he alone makes $1 million a year.
My next question. Let's say Manny really looks terrible and Floyd believes now he's a shot fighter. Is there any way Floyd would risk that his unbeaten record? Go in with Pacquiao, only with Pacquiao, figuring he's an old guy.
If he saw what I saw the other night, yes, I think he would. I think what I've seen in their last their exhibitions, Mayweather would tattoo Pacquiao again.
Okay, but because that fight would still do tremendous money. I mean,
absolutely, just the names alone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about Mayweather could, make like maybe 125, 150 million off, fight.
And
like
all
that.
the Pacquiao fans would buy it because they would love to see him get revenge.
Boxing fans, Mayweather's returning to the ring, and then Mayweather could tease us that maybe Terrence Crawford or someone like that, or Canelo is next. That Mayweather.
All right, Jack, you're going too far there. You're going too far there. You got too much sun. No. All right, Jack, let's talk about the best fighter in boxing, the most complete fighter in boxing, and probably the most dominant fighter in boxing. On this date, last year, Terrence Bud Crawford scored the signature win of his career in impressive fashion. And I was thinking before the show, no one will doubt, and I know you'll agree with me, that's his signature win. If you think of other guys that had signature wins, Duran over Leonard over Hearns, Frazier over Ali over Foreman. I mean, you could just pick them. I can't remember anyone that waited longer than a year before they got back in the ring, except maybe when Cassius Clay beat Liston and the fight was scheduled for November. So they would have fought twice in 64, but Ali got the hernia and the fight was pushed back to May at 65. But I can't remember anyone scoring a signature win to the degree that Crawford did and how great he looked that had such a gap between their next fight.
Well, Joe Frazier was 10 months after beating Ali, so that's pretty close. I mean, to Crawford's 13 months. It's not that far away. But
it was still inside that 12-month period.
Yeah, I mean,
but okay, Frazier's won.
Had the right offer come along for Crawford, he would have been in the ring sooner. Hypothetically, Spence had a rematch clause. I guess he said he was going to exercise it, but I guess he never did. Technically, the money wouldn't have been there. I don't know. Maybe the PBC told the guys, the money won't be there. We could do the rematch, but you're not going to get paid anywhere near what you think you should.
Because nobody thought the fight would be as one-sided.
Say Crawford had to go through with the fight. He would have fought whenever. And it's you're right that there's been this. That you can look at signature wins of great fighters, but keep in mind in the past, guys fought a little more, even during the
it's a different business today. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Real quick, Jack, let's just touch on Spence for a second. Sean Porter has been talking that Spence better get back in the ring soon, and if he doesn't show that aggression that he fought with in his prior bouts, he should hang it up. And I have to agree. I agree with Sean Porter. I think Spence is at the point now where he's got to get back in the ring, or the demons of that shellacking he took by Crawford are going to really affect him. I don't think he's signed with a new trainer yet. I see rumors, I don't think it's been announced, that he's going to fight Sebastian Fundora. I don't think that's a gimme for Spence at all. I might even pick Fundora to beat him because, Jack, he took such a beating in that fight physically, and I think it was the type beating that affects you mentally.
Mentally more than physically. Mentally more than physically.
I mean, that's very plausible, although he did get beat up pretty good physically. But, yeah, after the first round, he was never in the fight. What do you see for his future? Because I'm not sure.
I think, I don't want to say he's through. Him against Fundora, I don't know who would win at this point. A prime Spence, yeah, I would pick him. But, it was the type of one-sided drubbing that has an effect. And look, you just said it now. It was 1 year ago. What's he been doing? He hasn't shown the resolve to come back and redeem himself. Certain fighters have intestinal fortitude. Look, Tyson Fury beat up Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder got beaten up by Tyson Fury in the second fight just as badly as Spence did against Crawford. You'd agree. It was similar, right? The beating Wilder took, yet Wilder had a rematch clause for a third fight. He insisted on it, and Wilder fought the third fight with a self-belief like he could win. He got back in the gym. He gave it all he had. He came up short, but it was a Fight of the Year candidate. I think it did get the Fight of the Year award. But Spence hasn't shown that resolve. All of a sudden, he's going to decide he's going to go to the gym, start getting in shape, and think it's back. I hate to use the word that he's through. I'm not saying he couldn't beat lesser guys, but he's never going to get to the level he was before. I mean, I think those days are over, and I think he's done, basically. And I think he'll be a faded fighter, kind of like Danny Garcia. At this point, Danny Garcia is fighting Erislandy Lara, in September. I think he probably loses that fight. But Danny Garcia, is at this stage a little more of a businessman. He hasn't taken the beating.
But he never was shellacked the way that Spence was by Crawford. I kind of think that the beating, although it wasn't as bad in this fight, but the ending was pretty dramatic. It sort of reminds me to a degree the Donald Curry-Hunnigan fight, where Curry was never the same. Now, he didn't take the thrashing that Spence did for 9 rounds, but the ending was pretty emphatic. And Curry, for a lot of reasons, was never the same. And some of the stuff we've heard, had a hard time making weight, had some personal issues outside of the fight. But I think it's important for Spence. I think he has to get back into the ring soon. And if you think about this, if he looks really good, it makes Crawford's win look better. And if he looks really bad, it makes Crawford look better because people say, yeah, Crawford just demolished him.
Spence is more of a businessman probably now than a fighter because he made great money against Crawford. He made the type of money that should keep him secure the rest of his life. He doesn't have to fight again. He's probably thinking, if I fight Fundora, I could get a couple of $1 million. But if I win that fight, what's out there for me? Maybe I can make some truly big money. He's figuring out the dollars here. In his head, I'm pretty sure. And I don't look for Spence to be a force, again.
I think, Jack,
he's still on pound for pound lists, and it astonishes me.
I know, that's crazy.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think once a guy like Spence loses that I think that they start thinking about the money. It's like, okay, I can't retire undefeated. Let me get as much money as I can. So I think you hit it. I think that's what Spence will do. Now let's go back to Crawford. He fights Israel Madrimov this weekend. 10-0-1, 7 knockouts. Just won the title at 154. I took the time and I've watched some of Madrimov's fights. Jack, I don't think this is going to be the cakewalk for Crawford that some do. This guy switches. He looks strong. He looks durable. And I said last week that I think they're the kind of guys that bother Crawford. I don't think the fancy Dans and the boxers like Whitaker or Mayweather would bother him as much as this guy, because I think he could outmuscle the Whitakers and the Mayweathers, and he has the skills to match him. This guy is sort of like a mini Hulk who's strong, who looks very determined. He looks like a kind of a bigger Jeff Horn with maybe a little more power. So, look, Crawford hasn't gone the distance in 8 years. I would not be surprised if he wins the fight conclusively, but is forced to go to distance.
Yeah, when the fight was first made and all along, I'm thinking, Madrimov could be tough. He even has a outside chance of maybe upsetting Spence, because he's a bigger guy. He's going to put pressure on him. But Madrimov, watching him before in his fights, he does seem somewhat hittable. Now, I know Spence is moving up to 150.
You mean Crawford?
No, Madrimov is more hittable.
No, you said Spence is moving up Crawford.
Spence. I meant Crawford. I'm still on Errol Spence. I mean, Madrimov looks somewhat hittable. And I know Crawford's moving up in weight, to 154. I think he could take his power with him. I really do.
Because he's such a sharpshooter.
I'm looking for Crawford in the middle rounds to stop Madrimov, and I think he's going to stop him not so much as the referee just coming in because Madrimov is getting beaten up. I think he's going to knock him down, hurt him bad. I think it's going to be a sensational type finish for Crawford. I think he's going to send a very powerful message, like in the Roy Jones mode. Oh, you must have forgot how great I really am. So guys like you and me, Frank, who are wavering a little, figuring, maybe Crawford's ready to be taken. He's going to send a message out to us. He's now ready to be taken. I mean, if someone's going to beat him, they've got to be genuinely better or have physical advantages. Let's say if he fights Canelo, it's valid to pick Canelo to beat Crawford, but you wouldn't be picking Canelo to beat Crawford based on Crawford slipping as a fighter.
No.
So he's going to send he's going to be sending that message to us, I think, Saturday, Crawford.
And that's what I was.
Stoppage.
What round?
Crawford. 7 rounds. He knocks Madrimov down, Madrimov will be tough for a couple of rounds, the way I look at it.
All right, just for fun, I'm going to say it goes longer than 7 rounds. But you kind of answered my question. So you think that Crawford is coming into the ring this Saturday night with the idea the world's watching, and if I demolish Madrimov, the chirping around Canelo and myself is going to grow louder. And with Benavidez basically saying he's going to 175, Canelo doesn't have to hear about that any longer. So does Crawford look at it that way, where this is my opening and I have to look good?
Crawford has His Excellency in his corner, and His Excellency said right after this fight, assuming Crawford gets the job done, he's going to make Canelo a very fair offer. He's going to sit down with Canelo. And His Excellency, they don't bluff around. A fair offer isn't lowballing Canelo. He's going to offer Canelo more than market value, significantly more than market value. He's going to offer Canelo an astronomical number, not a crazy number. I mean, the Saudis have money to lose, but not a crazy amount of money. That wouldn't make any sense at all, because Crawford's got to get paid as well. And then the ball's in Canelo's court. Does he turn it down? Does he accept it? I feel Canelo turns it down. I think the money has got to be so ridiculous for Canelo to accept the fight. It would have to be like $250 million, Frank. He'd have
Jack, what if Crawford struggles a little bit, though? What if he gets wobbled and he goes the distance and he wins a split decision?
now Canelo is interested more so, perhaps more so. I mean, but Canelo right now. You love football, Frank, as I do. This is his mindset. He's ahead. He's just going to milk the clock, handing the ball off because he feels he could just get the first downs or whatever. Canelo's not into taking any serious chances anymore unless the money is, off the charts.
To get the National Streaming Sports channel on your Roku TV, channel search National Streaming Sports. There's the channel search in Roku. There's our logo right on the right, NESSP. Tap on the logo and it will add to your TV, the channel to your TV. On your laptop, tablet, and mobile phone, download the free Roku app and channel search just like above. If you don't have Roku TV, you have to order a Roku device from the Roku store, hook it up to your smart TV, and bang, you have Roku TV. Again, channel search, National Streaming Sports, click on our NESSP logo, and add the channel. After adding the Roku channel, National Streaming Sports, this is our Roku site. You can click on the live stream to see what show is playing or go to the VOD category, weekly schedule, click on the day, and it will give you all the shows scheduled for that day.
And we're back. Jack, now you said you think it's going to be around 7 rounds.
Yeah, I think Crawford's primed to give a great performance here. I mean, I heard he sparred something like 20 rounds, 4-minute rounds in the gym. He's in phenomenal shape, and he's been sparring with Shakur Stevenson.
And he sparred Andre Ward also.
Yeah, well, Andre Ward, that's probably playing around the bigger guy.
There was one. They just posted. It just dropped today, a video where they sparred. I think 3 or 4 rounds, and they were sparring.
You suppose Andre Ward is interested in Canelo because Canelo would sooner fight Andre Ward. Definitely, he'd think he's out of the ring, a big guy, unbeaten, and Ward is a very calculating individual. Even though he likes being unbeaten, I'm sure Ward would pick 100 million over being unbeaten.
Jack, I think you're right, but I think he's too smart. I think he's been out too long.
But if he can,
so I don't think we'll ever see Andre Ward fight again. But $100 million could change a lot of minds. There's no doubt about that. What you were saying about Crawford. Now here are my thoughts. You like Crawford in 7. I think Crawford's going to have a harder time than some think, or maybe many think. So I'm going to say past 7, over 7, just so we all have something to kid each other about next week. But here's my issue, Jack. Crawford fought so great against Earl Spence on this night 1 year ago. I just have a hard time, and I'm sitting back and I'm trying to think. We talked about guys that had signature fights and the layoff in between. How many guys have ever put together back-to-back signature fights or performances like that? So that's what kind of scares me a little bit, because I think Crawford looked so good the last time out. He set the bar so high. I don't think he can clear that again, and I'm worried about whether he can get. I know he likes the titles, and he'll give him his 4th title. I just don't know if he can get that up again, and that makes me think that the fight will be a little tighter than people think.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I'm thinking out loud. Fighters who had these signature wins, great fighters. It's hard to compare. Like Hagler, after beating Hearns, his signature win where he was sensational. His next fight was something like 11 months late against John Mugabe. Very tough.
And he had life and death.
But you want to know something? Mugabe probably always would have given them a tough fight, even if the Hearns fight didn't take place. I know when Roberto Duran won the world lightweight title over Ken Buchanan. Well, I think he may have had a fight in the interim, but he lost his step into Jesus 5 months later. I think Crawford, he stays in the gym all the time. He's in Omaha there. He loves being around the gym.
No, he's a gym rat, Jack. There's no doubt about that. But I just don't know if he can get up to the degree. And because he set the bar so high and looked so good the last time we saw him, I mean, it's kind of a catch-22. If he knocks Madrimov out early, they'll say he was no good. If he struggles, they'll say maybe the Crawford fight was a once-off. So I think your scenario is probably the best, where it's competitive for a little while, and then he finds his way, figures him out, solves the puzzle, and then just takes him apart.
Frank, Crawford can escape all criticism. If he knocks Madrimov out in one round, people aren't going to say, who have you fought? You've been ducking people. He fought Errol Spence the fight before. He wants the Canelo fight. No one out there thinks Crawford is avoiding Canelo. Crawford is stepping up. How do you criticize him if Canelo doesn't take the fight? What else is there? I mean, maybe if Canelo doesn't take the fight, people are going to start to whisper a little about Boots Ennis. But Boots Ennis is going to stay as a welterweight a little longer. Eddie Hearn's going to keep him there. Crawford's at 154. So Eddie Hearn basically saying, okay, we'll get to Crawford. Let's hold off a little bit longer. So Crawford might escape that criticism. But if Crawford turned around and all of a sudden said, maybe Boots is ready to step up. I'm ready to negotiate, right now. I'm ready to hear the offers come in, how much they give me to fight him. That might happen. His Excellency said, if Canelo doesn't fight Crawford, he's promised Crawford a big fight. What's bigger than
I saw that.
What's bigger?
Jack, we didn't talk about this. How do we think?
Wait. I don't want to lose our segment because we have a couple of segments. I'm sorry to cut in, Frank, but I want to talk something about Canelo signing to fight Edgar Berlanga, since we're on the topic. Okay, I don't want to lose that because they announced it this week. I think the fight's a complete farce. And I honestly think, and I'm familiar with Berlanga, if Canelo tried to, he could stop him within 2 rounds, maybe even 1. Okay? Not that Berlanga is that bad. Technically, he's sound. He's slow. He's very average. He is a moderately good puncher, but he's not of that level. It
should be a one-sided beatdown by Canelo.
But I was talking to Mac before the show, Frank. What do you think of this? Canelo's in a spot. He's got to make it look good. If he demolishes Berlanga, they're going to criticize him. What a mismatch. So it would serve Canelo better if Berlanga gave him a good fight, but Canelo basically dominated, but was given a tough time. Then Canelo could say, see, I told you this guy's good. I pointed out the Joe Frazier-Manuel Ramos fight, the 2-round fight. Ramos came out firing. He got outgunned by Frazier, got knocked down, a couple of times in the last
3 times,
round, but went out fighting. And everyone was praising Manuel Ramos' effort, and they praised Frazier. That's the best scenario for Berlanga within, reasonably. Just throw everything you have at Canelo, make it a heck of an entertaining fight. Maybe make Canelo respect your power, and then you get stopped, within 3 rounds, 3rd round, and then people are going to say, well, you really gave it a good try.
I don't see any path for Berlanga, Jack, at all. I think Canelo goes through him. We'll touch on that more, but let's go back to this. Crawford fighting at 154. I don't think that's going to be a problem for him. Crawford does a lot of weight training. He wrestles. He's a strong guy. And I think he's going to maintain his speed and accuracy. So as long as Madrimov is not a junior middleweight, Rocky Marciano, I don't see him getting upset. But I think he's going to handle the weight, and this might be the first test, because if he does get the Canelo fight, he would probably only come in about 160 or 161 anyhow. So I don't think he would be that big. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and how it goes, and if Crawford can put together back-to-back signature fights. In closing on that, Jack, the Olympics started this week. Now, I have interest in two sports in the Olympics because I used to box and I've been doing judo for a couple years. So I've been wanting to watch the judo and the boxing. However, let me ask you this. Speaking of the Olympics, what's the first Olympics that you have memories of watching on TV as a young Jack Hirsch in New York?
George Foreman in the 1968 Olympics.
Same here.
That's the most vivid memory. You know, they made a big deal about George. You know, funny thing, I don't remember too much about the other fighters. I remember the 72 Olympics, much more, but 68 it was George Foreman with
dominated that.
Cosell's voice, and Foreman carrying the American flag in the ring, Sing It Unfold live.
Jack, go ahead.
No, they had another fighter from those Olympics that won a gold medal from the U.S. I don't remember him on TV.
Ronnie Harris.
Southpaw, fought for the world middleweight title against Hugo Coro eventually. Had a hard time getting fights because he was a southpaw that was a little boring.
Jack, think about this. And I've always said this. Now, look, I have some issues with George Foreman out of the ring. But in the ring, clearly one of the top three greatest of all time. The most powerful.
Whoa. Three greatest of all time what?
Heavyweights.
Wait, Frank, what are you talking about? Clearly, you could say Ali and Lewis are clearly
That's it.
1 and 2.
That's it. Foreman's 3 for me.
Oh, you could say for you, but don't say clearly. I think most people would rate maybe Larry Holmes a little ahead of Foreman on a career. I'm not saying.
Jack, okay. Yes, and in my rankings, I have Foreman 3 and Holmes 4. I agree with that, but I don't see any case where
Lennox Lewis based on accomplishment.
Okay, but Foreman's accomplishments stand up to Lewis's, and that's what I was going to say, Jack. Imagine this: George Foreman had 20 fights. He was an amateur boxer for a year and a half, and he won a gold medal and beat a Russian in the finals. Now, look, the Cubans didn't start competing until 72, but he cleared out all the European guys in 68. And I think that's one of the most incredible feats in boxing. George Foreman winning the gold medal with 20 fights under his belt and I think he knocked out 3 or 4 of his opponents. He was a killer. Do you remember Jesse Valdez in 72?
Oh, yeah.
I loved him.
He beat Eddie Gregory later to become Eddie Mustafa Muhammad in the finals of the U.S.
He was from Houston.
Yeah, he got eliminated, I think, very early in the tournament.
He got beat, Jack. I think he got a bronze medal, and I remember, I was thinking that it was a bad decision that he won.
Reggie Jones, there was this fighter, Reggie Jones, a middleweight, who the decision went against them, and the crowd in Munich were throwing things in the ring or something, or they were booing, and it was like a major controversy. But in 72, the only gold medalist was Sugar Ray Seales, who was a good pro after.
Marvin Johnson was a silver or bronze medalist that year, I forget.
Bronze medal, yeah. Marvin Johnson won the bronze medal that year. And, years later in Canastota, Sugar Ray Seales always carried his gold medal around. I wish he wouldn't do it because he'd want to bless people. So when I caught up to him, he didn't know me. I recognized him walking like, oh, you have Sugar Ray Seales' right to just say hello. He put the medal in my hand for a second just so I could hold it. and then took it back. And I'm telling myself, I wish he wouldn't have done it because one of these idiots could run off with it. Please don't. I felt like saying, please don't do that. But that's, that was his business to do it. But, fighters with their gold medals, I think they should be careful. I had Mark Breland. He brought his gold medal to speak to a bunch of kids, okay? And then he's left it on the table and he was going to go out for coffee. And I stopped him. You can't just leave the darn gold medal here.
Let me see. Some of my other favorite Olympic boxers. Okay. I love Foreman. I like Jesse Valdez. I mean, look, you can't dispute Stevenson, but I mean, he wasn't somebody I cheered for because he was Cuban, but he's no doubt one of the greatest Olympians ever.
The 76 team. Last spring, I went down to the gym in Florida with Charles Mooney, a silver medalist from that team. He trains boxers. He's a trainer there in Florida now.
Right.
And we kind of were reminiscing about that team, just talking about the different fighters and everything. I wrote a story on them. And, that was some team when you think of it at the time. And the alternates were great, too, like Aaron Pryor being an alternate because he couldn't quite get by Howard Davis. It hurts me when I think about Howard Davis. I mean, he tragically died at an earlier age, Then
he was the Val Baker winner that year, not Sugar Ray Leonard. People forget that.
And it was such a heartwarming story. His mother passed away right before I was supposed to fight. He went through with it. And Charles Mooney said him and Sugar Ray Leonard and Howard Davis, the three of them were together. They were conferring whether Davis should fight. And Mooney was telling me that Sugar Ray Leonard said, do whatever you think is right. And Davis decided to stay. He won the gold medal. And it's a shame he never won a pro title. Winning that gold medal, the Olympics are so big for athletes in other sports. That's the end of it. You win the Olympics, that's the absolute ultimate. But in boxing, they remember you for what you did as a pro, unless you didn't turn professional, like Stevenson.
Stevenson would have definitely been a factor, but when he turned pro, it was a really fast track at that time. I'm going to
1988, Frank. That's when I had it with Olympic boxing. That Roy Jones decision. I gave up on it. I was so disgusted. Okay, so disgusted. I just casually followed it. I'll watch it on TV if it's now, but I'm not making it a point.
No, they put it on at 4:00 in the morning. It's impossible to find.
I saw it the other day. I saw the Cuban two-time Olympic gold medalist get upset by a former Cuban defector, but the scoring's been so bad in some of the fights.
Jack, do you know who my favorite Olympian was, though, of all of them, who I love to watch fight? Leon Spinks as a light heavyweight during the 76 Olympics. And I have said, and I'm interested to see where you come down this, but I believe as the amateurs, as medalists, I believe Leon Spinks, who beat Sixto Soria, would have defeated Cassius Clay, who won the gold medal, and would have defeated Evander Holyfield, who came in who won the bronze, but who was clearly the best fighter at that weight in the tournament. The DQ against Kevin Barry basically killed him. But I think Leon at 178 fighting as an Olympian was the best 178 pounder I saw.
Well, I know this. Charles Mooney told me when he sparred with John Tate, who won a bronze medal in the 76 Olympics, they won the same team. Leon used to beat him up every sparring session. Tate was terrified of Mooney, even outside the ring. They once had an argument, Tate and Mooney, over the TV. Mooney was a little guy, a bantamweight. Tate picked him up in the air and kind of threatened him in a way, you better watch my channel. And when Leon Spinks said, put him down angrily, Tate put down Mooney, and he was like terrified, because Leon used to beat him up. I disagree about the Holyfield thing. Holyfield was a very polished amateur fighter. He wasn't raw. Maybe
he was the better all-around boxer. I'll give you that.
maybe Cassius Clay lacked the maturity, but I have to feel
Right. He was only
Cassius
18.
Clay would have. Yeah, maybe he would have lacked the maturity, and Spinks would have kind of overwhelmed Cassius Clay,
Physically,
got a
yes.
decision. Maybe because he was a mature Marine. I could see that happening, but Holyfield, he had it together. He had it together as an amateur. He was way advanced, you know. I think he would
Holyfield's
have
one of my
been.
favorite fighters, Jack, but I think Leon, 23-year-old Leon against 22-year-old Holyfield, I think Leon stylistically, I don't know if Holyfield could have coped with that pressure and aggression and power at that young age. Now, he clearly was the better pro, but I don't know if he would have beat that Leon as an amateur. And remember, Leon making 178 was such a chore for him. In fact, I would like you to ask Mooney about that, because I've heard stories they literally had to lock him in his room the day before the weigh-in so he couldn't get any food so he could make weight.
Yeah, you hear all these Olympic stories. It fascinated me what Charles Mooney said. He was roommates with Sugar Ray Leonard. And he said Leonard would wake him up at night. Leonard would get up and start punching walls. He was like so hyper, Sugar Ray Leonard. Charles Mooney wasn't nervous. You know, the whole thing, he was calm. He said through the whole Olympics, he wasn't hyper about what was going on. But Sugar Ray Leonard, he had such pressure on him to win the gold medal. I mean, it's like De La Hoya would have laid on. People don't realize when De La Hoya won his gold medal in 92, one of the fights against a fight, I think Rudolph, he just won by 1 point, just barely got by. What would that have done for his marketing if you couldn't call him the golden boy? You kind of wonder his pro career with the opportunities have been as plentiful. But at that time, winning the gold medal for some guys was a springboard. Look, Dwayne Bobbitt, had he won the gold medal, he would have been considered truly a great
he would have been
fighter.
huge.
He would have been off the charts. I mean, people.
And he beat Stevenson 2 times, Jack, before that.
And right, and people don't realize Dwayne Bobbitt got to the Olympics. The guy he beat in the finals to make the team was Larry Holmes.
Stop them.
You know, that may have been a blessing in disguise for Holmes not going to the Olympics, because imagine he went up against Stevenson. He would have lost at that stage, and maybe would have lost very badly. And it always would have stuck out. Oh, had Stevenson been a pro, he would have beaten Holmes. The Olympic fight proves it. So that could have been a blessing in disguise for Holmes.
How about and this guy wasn't an Olympian, but he beat Holmes twice by stoppage. Remember Nick Wells?
Nick Wells, a really good amateur, hard puncher, you know.
Good, big puncher, big left hooker, and I think he was a southpaw too, Nick Wells.
Yeah, and some guys that didn't work out, they just didn't make the team. Tyson didn't make the team.
No, he lost to Henry Tillman twice.
Henry Tillman, I don't think there was hanky-panky going. Customato reportedly was scheming afterwards. He wanted Tyson to spar with Henry Tillman because Tyson was the Olympic alternate. He'd be going with the team. And he wanted Tyson to knock Tillman out. So if Tillman couldn't fight, Tyson would then take his place. That was kind of dirty. But that was, you know, D'Amato looking out for his guy, reportedly.
Yeah, there's a look at our man Smoking Joe. He loses to Mathis twice, and then Mathis breaks his hand and couldn't go. And then Frazier goes, he injures his thumb and still wins a gold medal.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think a Joe Frazier type even was conducive to winning a gold medal with this.
No, style. Not that style. Same with Tyson.
We don't think of Smoking Joe as a great amateur. We don't think of him as an Olympic gold medalist. We never think of him as that way. Somehow we think about Ali.
He won the only gold medal that year. American.
1964. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was the only gold medal winner. In Tokyo.
Yeah. You know, Ali charmed people in the Olympic Village. You know,
they call him the mayor.
Right. So we hear about his Olympic experience, but somehow Smoking Joe, we just don't, you know. But yeah.
Jack, I like the Olympic boxing. I don't like what they've done to it. and I wanted to get into the scoring, but we're out of time. But all I can say is this: I don't like that computer scoring. I like the way they did it before that, but because of the Jones decision, they changed the whole system.
We'll talk more about the Olympics next week, Olympic boxing, because it's still going to be going on.
Yes. Okay, everybody, that's it. Jack and I both like Crawford by stoppage. Jack likes him in 7. I like him after 7. We'll talk about it next week. Until then, thanks for watching.